Okay. All right. So we've got some seeds here.
Fix that. Okay. Yeah, and I wanted to get some of these. And you have dirt.
I do have some soil over here.
All right. So today we're talking about seeds and potting up seeds and growing plant Hoyas from seeds. We have never been successful in potting or in pollinating and hand pollinating ourselves. We've had a couple that accidentally pollinated. But I did make a handout for today's talk, and I did put some information that I could find about hand pollinating and the steps that you need to do. But if anyone else has any information on that or has experienced it themselves, done it themselves, I'd love to hear your guys' tips and tricks for that.
Yeah.
Because that's like step A, get seeds, right?
Yeah.
After
than that,
yeah.
May the force be with you, because I have no insight.
Yeah, after they're pollinated, then they, we'll create these little seed pods that look like basically green beans. Then the seed pod bursts, and they look like little tiny, if you've never seen them before, like little tiny dandelion seeds almost. So seeds, Hoya seeds, unlike some other species, are kind of time sensitive and how long they're good for to still germinate. The information I found, they can be good up to 3 months, but most often you want to get them potted within 2 weeks. Someone shared with us on Friday that someone had told them that they can be frozen if you can't pot them right away. I found information online saying that you shouldn't freeze them, that could possibly dry them out and cause them to burst, and you don't want that. But you can refrigerate them to help kind of extend that lifetime out a little bit. So interesting for that. We're going to try a couple different methods today. So up until now, Caleb has grown seeds similar to our terrarium boxes, where we have a bed of fluval on top of a bed of moss, and then we just sprinkle the seeds right on top. I want to try it in media, like actual potting media. You ordered a few? Nice.
So what we've done is we've taken the tags that we acquired with the seeds and sort of just nested them down into the moss bed so that they're sitting right on top. They're not buried down inside there or anything. They're just sitting right on top and sort of patted down. And I occasionally will go in here and keep it sprayed with a little bit of water. And so far, that's what we've done. Now, I can see a couple of small green sprouts here. Whoops, there went the lid. So there are a couple of these that are starting to take off.
Those are the RHM 2510, which is a Verticillata redleaf unknown cross.
Yeah.
And then over here we have RHM 2521.
And those ones we just got.
Those ones we just planted.
Yeah, so they're not.
These ones we only had planted like a week or so, right? And they've already shown little tiny green seed.
Yeah,
these seeds were both bought from Rick Morera at Rick's Hoyas, Rick and Swiffer's Hoyas in his Facebook group.
Yeah.
I think I might have bought one of them off of his eBay page. We also have your red leafs doing that too already. We also have some seeds that were sent to us by Plante Jungle, our friend Sally over at Plante Jungle. She sent me 3 packets of seeds this week. A Lacanosa No ID open cross, Croniata Black open cross, and Croniata Silver open cross. So those are the 3 we're going to pot up today. And then we have some seedlings that we potted, some seeds we received from our friend Mayra, the plant queen. She sent us these Papashoni open seeds, or self-pollinated, a while ago. And these little seedlings have been growing out, and we're going to kind of tease them apart and set them up. So which do you want to do? You want to do those first? You want to do the seeds first?
We could do these. They're actually starting to look a little bit wilty, a couple of these.
Oh yeah, I started.
I just pulled these out of the prop box, so they're used to very high humidity. And so I'm expecting a little bit of a roller coaster with these.
Yeah.
They probably will come around, and we may lose a few, but I think that in the meantime, we may lose a couple leaves through the process.
Me too.
So here's what we're going to do. I have these, and they are pretty well rooted, as you can see, in some moss and some fluval. And what I'm basically going to do is just try and pick off as much of that moss as I can the fluval tends to fall right off, and that's pretty easy. But as I separate these out, I want to try and preserve the stems and not bend them up too much. Oh man, these leaves are getting tacky.
Maybe we should have pulled them out right away.
Yeah.
We pulled these out right before the show. Maybe we should have left them. We've got good root systems, I don't know.
We've got a decent amount of roots on them. The trick is just getting them into some soil here before they wilt away. But as you can see, they've grown some pretty substantial roots down into that fluval and the moss. And so that's going to give them a chance to get started. And if you can preserve some of that stem and some of those roots, there's a good chance this will develop into a plant, even if you lose a few of your leaves.
There you go.
So it's not the end of the world. But as you can see, we've got a pretty decent amount of roots on a little stem. I hope to be able to preserve that and put it into a cup.
So we will usually wait till so the first set of leaves that come out, I don't know how to say the word. I think it's said cotyledon. They are the immature first leaves that a plant produces just to like feed itself to make more leaves. They're usually not the shape or the size or the features of the main plant. And then after that, it'll start pushing out true leaves. And we'll usually wait till there's at least like 3 or 4 sets of true leaves before we will pot them up. Cotyledon.
I've heard them referred to as something else.
Cotyledon.
Now I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
I'm losing it now. There was a term we used to use when we talked about the cannabis leaf sprouting, and the initial leaf that is just the 2 halves of the seed pod, the actual bean, open up into the initial profil leaves. That's what they call them.
Profil, okay.
So then you have your initial leaves that start the whole process, and then you start making leaves that are single. And then so on. All right, so what I'm doing with these, same thing as usual, half a cup on its side, lay this down on top of there, and a little more soil.
Now, are you going to put these back into humidity then, or?
I am going to attempt to not.
Yeah.
Because I feel like getting them out of the humidity is what's going to make them harden off and survive as plants. But I'm going to have to pay very close attention to them like I do the other plants that we're hardening off out of humidity. So that's kind of where I'm at. I want this sort of to stand up. But again, I'm not like super concerned if it's a little bit droopy right this moment. It will come back around, I think. And so I'm just going to continue to work through these as quickly as I can. Because as I said, they're drying out as we speak. So the sooner I can get these potted up.
So you're not trying to get all of the moss or anything off the roots at this point?
No, I don't think that little bit is going to affect it too much.
But you want these to hold water a little more than you would a regular plant anyway, like a cutting.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you can see, for the size of the plant, that's a pretty large cup. And so already it's going to have a decent amount of moisture retention there.
We're actually out, Lisbel. We sold the last of the ones we had from Gathering Moss. So I would check with him, Gathering Moss FTW. They are the makers of the Laura cups that we had before.
Yeah.
I need to see if we can get more. But what is it with Papishoni? Papishoni self-pollinates. So in that family of plants, what's the other one? The Lobe, right? Locky. They self-pollinate, which means that it's very easy to get seeds off them. The few that we've had pollinate here on our own is Papishoni and Locky. So yeah, so it's pretty common. Now, because it's really hard to get a cross that you can definitively say is, this species and Papishoni, because they self-pollinate as well. So you'll almost always see it sold as open cross or self-pollinated.
Yeah, and I think that they also are limited in which species they can pollinate with.
Yeah.
And they're terrestrial in nature, and they tend to pollinate with other terrestrial Hoyas that they don't often come in
that's a good point.
contact
Just
with.
because you have two open Hoyas does not mean that they can cross with each other.
Right. Yeah, not all Hoyas can pollinate the other. They have to have compatible pollinaria. So if you have a totally different shaped flower, that may not work out. So you have to do your research with which plants you try to propagate and try to cross. But I think that there's a lot of variety of things that do cross, and so there's a lot to work with.
I think you can see the difference there in how many you see. Like you see a lot of verticillata crosses, right? Probably a lot easier to pollinate that flower.
Yeah, they're big to make large flowers, and so I think it's a little bit easier to do that delicate work, if you will, if it's not quite as delicate. Whereas some of these tiny little flowers, like a minutaflora, if you're trying to cross with that, you got to have, geez, we'd have to do that under a microscope probably. Such a tiny flower. So again, it comes down to the practicality of the parts that you're dealing with too. I feel like there's a certain element of it. It just becomes more difficult because it's such a tiny flower that you're trying to pollinate.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that there's another limitation of what you can cross with that. So here we have this cute little tray with those papichones, as good as they can be, potted up. And within a day or so, I'm going to give them just a very light drink of water, just a couple drops right at the base of the plant so it can soak in and start to take in some moisture into the plant. Now, here's another one that I pulled out of the prop box that has been giving me heartburn for ages. This is Cistantia. And I got a cutting of this and it was tanking, and I took, as a ditch effort, I threw it into my prop box ages ago, and it finally grew this plant. And so now I'm finally getting around to transplanting it.
This is not one of the seedlings.
This is not one of the seedlings.
It just happened to come out in this patch.
And I grabbed it out to show you that it's the same process, okay? This is from a cutting that I stuck in there instead of a seed, but I've waited until it's grown substantial roots. And now I'm finally getting ready to actually transplant. And I probably let this go a little longer than I should have or needed to, but this plant has given me some heartburn in the past. So I've lost more than one of them. I'm being a little extra cautious with this one. So we'll get this guy potted up. And again, this has been used to humidity, so I'm gonna have to pay very close attention to this over the next few days, because I'm going to be acclimating this to our ambient humidity situation. So I'll be putting it on this tray with these other guys and monitoring that with some other plants that I'm trying to get acclimated to ambient from our tote conditions, where they're actually under probably close to 90% humidity.
And then the important thing to do here is keep labels. With seedlings look very, very similar to each other. So what the convention is that your seed pod gets numbered, generally by using some sort of initials that represent the grower. So these are, where's your tag? So the seed number she has given, she's gonna give one. I'll have to ask her.
Papichone.
Yeah, so like these ones from Saley are the SAP 023. So you would plant these as SAP 023. Then each seedling would get a separate number for itself too. So you would SAP 023, 01, 02, 03, and that helps you keep track of where these things came from originally. I've seen a lot of growers use the year in their seed number.
Help keep track of it.
Keep track of everything.
Makes sense. Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to try something different.
Yeah.
They are from Mayra. Yeah. Yeah, she's a lovely friend of ours, and thankfully or gracefully gave us a bunch of seeds. So so this is my idea, Caleb. I don't know. I'm winging it here because I've never done this. I wanted to use something that I thought everybody could find pretty easily. We have these takeout containers that we used for the rolls Caleb makes. And then we have these tiny little cups. What do we use these for? The frogs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like little shot glasses,
Shot
basically.
glasses. So my thought was to fill these with soil because I really want to try some directly in media and not in moss because we have things growing in moss. But I was thought, should I put a bed of moss down to keep humidity and dampness underneath the cups before I put the cups in?
It's possible. I would suggest that the soil will retain enough moisture that I don't think you need to add moss.
Okay.
And if you just spray the soil, that it should be okay.
Yeah. Do you think that it would just help to keep these stable in here?
Possibly.
Should I not use these at all and just put soil right into the thing and like plant it right there? You're paranoid.
The only thing about that would be that the roots, much like in the moss, they can tangle with each other. And when you go to transplant them, you might lose some of those roots. It's okay. And in most cases, you've grown enough root to still sustain a plant. But that's the difficulty is in an individual cup, they're contained amongst themselves and they're generally not going to get too mixed up. Okay. Now, sometimes they can root through the bottom of the cup and then you have a different problem, but that's a different situation.
Yeah. He did drill them for me.
Yeah, there's a
tiny hole in them. So many sellers will sell you seeds like this. They are in a little makeup wipe with cotton pad. So you just got to be careful when you open it up. I'm going to try and see what's going on here. So it looks like I have 4 seeds in here.
Nice. Adorable little.
It's hard to see. They're the tiny little black specks there.
Yeah.
I'm running downstairs. Okay, so I'm going to try. Can I have some soil in those? Do I have to moisten the soil first, do you think?
Well, this is pre-moistened.
Pre-moistened soil, okay.
We always plant in pre-moistened soil. So when I take it out of the package or take it out of the bucket that we store it in, I pre-moisten it, and then we do our potting or planting in it.
Do we have tweezers anywhere?
Yes.
Upstairs?
Yes.
This is adorable, I have to say. It's like our cups, but tiny.
Yeah.
It's kind of adorable. It reminds you of those little houses, those little greenhouses that people build.
Do you need 5 of them, you said?
I need 4 for this one.
4.
And I have other seedlings here, so. Okay. Can I have some tweezers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could just get into just potting tiny seeds in these tiny cups as a hobby. That'd be great. Maybe I should do 4 this way. So my thought was if I put them in these clear things, then technically I could put the sticker on the lid and I would know what they were. Oh, did I just knock them? Oh no, I just lost one.
Is it stuck to your finger?
No, I just flipped this. So it's gotta be here somewhere. There. Those tweezers.
Is that it or is that on the outside?
It is.
Okay.
Oh, that's tiny. Teeny, teeny, tiny. I have 2 carnosa seeds. Oh, cool. Yeah, so you just want to lay the seed on top. You don't want to push it down and give it too much to struggle through, right?
Right.
So I'm going to lay 1 on each of these cups. Does it matter if I get a bunch of the cotton with it?
Nope. Shouldn't matter.
Now, I noticed these seedlings, these lacunosas, don't have a bunch of the fiber like the other ones did that we planted.
They were probably picked out.
Oh, okay.
Or it stuck to the cosmetic pad there. Because they generally do. The Hoya's similar to the drawing a blank.
Dandelion?
No. Well, it is similar to a dandelion, but also the relative plant.
Cool. Yeah, we'd love to see a picture. Milkweed?
Milkweed. Jeez. Lost it for a second there. Yeah, the milkweed has a very cottony transportation system on its seed pod as well.
Will it hurt if I put that?
No.
The cotton on there?
Nope. No, because that's how they distribute it in nature.
Oh, there's a whole nother pad down there. I just realized.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's more.
Oh my. I thought those were dense. Those little envelopes. So you need 4 more, probably?
There's 5 in this one. So when we label our seedlings, nothing. So nothing. So, well, that's not true. So like you see us sell the Caleb and Nicole from Catherine. So she has RHM 2403, and then her seedling is KP01 or KP02. So that you can add those initial in there. But then the idea by growing seeds is that when you grow the seedlings out, you're watching for something that is uniquely different from the original plant or plants. You want to find a feature that is, not currently in circulation. This one is highly splashy, variegated, grows differently, something like that. And then you would keep the ones that are actually worth growing out, and you would cull the rest. Because not everything is worth growing, or not everything is uniquely different. And once you have a cultivar that is unique and can be established as unique, then you can name it something. So you would stop calling it RHM 2403-KP01, and then you can name it like
Frederick,
Fred, or Nicole, or whatever you were, like Catherine did. So this is a lot of fun, though. Is there a? No, I couldn't have put one in there because there's still 3 left. Is there upside down on seeds?
No, they find their way. That's why you put them right on top. If there is an up and a down, it's fluff up, but you won't be able to tell that once they pack it up. Usually.
Maybe I did just put 2 in that one.
I think you did.
Does that matter?
Nope. It means you'll have 8 instead of 9 cups.
That's okay. It fits nicely in this little container. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, you'll see someone name like the Candy Crush. Like once it produced a flower that was uniquely different than its mother plants, then it got named that cultivar name. Okay.
All right.
Now.
So probably we should just separate these by
seedling.
Seedling and.
See, this is where I feel like having some moss in here would be like helpful.
I think you just get a whole nother clamshell.
I know, but these are going to slide around and tip over.
Perhaps. Yeah. Might be beneficial.
Exactly. Yeah. That is a very good point. You don't necessarily register the cultivar unless it's unique, and we did call them that to distinguish them.
Right.
Yeah, we do have holes in the cups. Caleb took a little tiny drill and drilled a little hole in them.
Yeah. Just to keep any water that we spray in there flowing through, it won't fall out the bottom if it needs to.
Yeah, I feel like I need something to stop these from like being tipped over.
Good question.
I'm set question. Hang on. If a seed is labeled X unknown, we still use the mom's designation. You use the mom unknown. You should use both, cross unknown or open pollinated.
Right.
You could take Hoya, Mutrata open pollinated.
Yeah.
Seedling.
Yeah, exactly. That way you're keeping track of what you know and what you don't know.
Over for sure. Maybe I should put some flugel in the bottom or something. Polyfill? No. Yeah, that works out nicely. Okay, so he's just taking the seedling dirt there and put that in the front so that these don't tip too easily. Put the tag in there. And then for my research, we were talking on Friday about heat mats. I found that the best temperature for germination on Hoya seeds is 75 to 80 degrees. So I think that's why heat mats are so helpful. Oh, just that. Okay, that makes sense. So Catherine's explaining that she names her seed pod, her first seed pod seeds by the year and then by the seed. So it'd be RHM 25XX-KP25-01 for the seed. I think that's how you can tell what year these came from.
Yeah.
Your own pods. Okay. Valuable. I mean, it.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, usually what makes a Hoya species valuable or Hoya plant valuable is its distinct features that are just more desired in the market.
Yeah.
So this isn't, with seedlings, they're usually not a rarity situation because they can be.
This has to become known,
Yeah.
to be desired and have people want to buy it. That's where you really have to have something that looks different or has a real interesting characteristic. And suddenly people are like, oh my goodness, that's so beautiful, I gotta have it.
Yeah.
And that's why Rick is always posting these amazing plants that he's crossed, and that creates the demand because he's like, look at how pretty you could have this plant in your home, but the only place you can get it is from me. So come on down and pick up a plant. It's a great marketing approach because he has unique species you can't get elsewhere. And so that's really kind of the benefit of that. You're making species that you've created the desire for. And that's what makes value around it. Unless if no one knows about it, then the value is it's
in the eye of the beholder, really. What are you willing to pay for the future? But if you have a plant that, say, like Swiffer's Nightmare, that's a great one from Rick. That is a seed cross. I believe that's a seed cross from him. That is one of any of Swiffer's really. Has a feature that's really, really cool. Now you can't recross those two parents and still say this is Swiffer's Nightmare. You have to have a cutting from that original plant.
Yeah.
Oh, it's growing here. Okay. And then regrow that plant from cutting there on after to call that. And that's how we get these cultivars that go out into the hobby and get passed around.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's very much different from a seed pod, because seed pod, you have only 50% control. The other side of that is either you crossed it directly or an insect or a cross-pollination of some unknown nature. And so you really don't know what the other genes are in that plant.
And you don't know which genes are going to be expressed. And that's why Hoyas are so cool to grow from seed, because you could there's 8 seedlings in this thing that we just planted up. Each seedling could have a different feature. They could look entirely different from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But because those plants produced seeds, and that's why you'll often see sellers like Rick, post the seed parents and then a seedling from the previous year's seed pod. Like, this is the potential. Is it a guarantee? Absolutely not. Your plant may not look anything like that from that seed, but it's possible.
Right.
And it's desirable if it does. So.
Yeah. The genetics are there, and it's just like if you buy a variegated Monstera and then it goes reverted on you. It's similar to that. It's luck of the draw.
It's sometimes we don't have really great control.
Yeah. Sometimes you have a really great outcome, and sometimes it isn't as great, or sometimes the plant just dies on you, and you don't end up having all those different seeds to compare. And so in the end, it's what we have to assess at the end of our growth cycle. Okay, here are the plants that made it. Here are my favorites. Here are the ones that I don't really care for or don't really feel like we should do something with. And you kind of have to pick and choose what is going to be the winners.
Yeah. Yeah, but you want to watch to see, are these things stable? How do they keep producing? It doesn't have to be watched by you. You can share it with a friend or people in the community and say, hey, let's all keep an eye on what this does. Frequently, that's what they would do, is when you had a species that you were like, this cultivar is really unique, then you would send cuttings of it out to friends in different areas of the country or world and say, grow these in your condition, and say how long, what does it do for you? And are these features stable?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. Depending on how they're doing, yes. There's not a ton of headspace in these cups. So as they start to grow, you don't
These
want to
aren't gonna
let
fit
them
in here
touch the
long.
plastic. So once they start to grow out of the cups, we're going to have to address them and either put them in a taller container or transplant them into a different setup where they can have a little more headspace to grow.
They'll probably go into one of those Rubbermaid totes, like we had that first one in.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's exciting because they each have a
And we can
slight
see the
difference.
difference in them.
Yeah,
Those are, if you didn't see us on Friday, we shared some Padawan seedlings that Catherine had sent us as well.
and they're really getting quite large.
Yeah.
They're turning into some full plants. So we're really excited to see how those develop and also to see how they grow and develop once they're cut and re-rooted. So
Yeah.
it's also another good progression along its plant journey.
Yeah, it is. It's being recorded on the other platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's our experimentation. We're going to watch and see what these do. These seeds generally should germinate and start showing us some green growth within 1 to 2 weeks at most.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
Keep them moist in there. If to give them a spray every once in a while and let them stay on the moist side and wait for them to germinate.
And then those first leaves, like we said, you can't look at those and be like, oh, they don't look very exciting, because that's not what's going to show you the features. And even on the juvenile leaves, you want to give them a chance to mature a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. How often how long do you guys keep your seedlings before you're like, nope, this isn't unique and I want to get rid of it? Or do you ever get rid of them?
I've heard a lot of people saying they don't get rid of them. And I think that that's part of what can be a collection problem for people sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to get rid of them, hard to make the choice, but also you don't have room for them all. We honestly can't grow all of these things out to full-size plants, right? So eventually we have to make decisions.
Send them friends. Yep, that's good. Yeah.
We enjoy the overflow. We appreciate the overflow. But yeah, I think that's great. Right. I think that's a great way to get rid of your abundance, but you definitely have to have a plan for it, right? You can't just keep it all or you're just going to be inundated.
Now, how long should we keep seeds? Like if nothing happens, right? Because there's always a chance these seeds aren't viable. How long do you keep the cup before you're like, that's not gonna?
I mean, ungerminated?
Yeah.
I want to see action in 2 weeks. But if we don't see action in 2 weeks, I'm going to be taking a real close look to see if anything's happening at all. And if it's not, then it's not. And I would assume that they just aren't going to germinate. Okay. I've never seen a seed take longer than 2 weeks to pop.
Do you have to adjust the lighting for seeds? Do they have to be lit differently than our other plants?
They like bright light. I think that the light tends to trigger, with the humidity, tends to trigger the action. But it's just like any plant, it's going to thrive off of light. And as it grows into that bright light, it's able to absorb, even with the tiniest little bit of green on the plant, it can start to use light and start to translate that into energy.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm expecting these are going to have some pretty good results with Lacanosa.
Can I have another one of these? 2 more?
Clamshells?
Yeah. I think I'm just going to put it right in the dirt. How far away from the light should they be from the container? Ours is about 8 inches, maybe. These are the ones from Saley. These are Lacanosa No ID open. She sent us a Croniana Black open and a Croniana Silver open is 2. So we're going to try planting those. And then we'll see what else I can get my hands on and somehow find a place to fit 1,000 seedlings growing up.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. What kind of seeds are you guys growing? Vicki, you said you got some yesterday too, right? Pods that you grew? From Rick? Okay. Mm. Yeah, those go fast, man.
Yeah.
Oh, you got one of those? Yeah, it was sold out by the time I saw it. We keep them fully closed, but we'll open it to put moisture in there.
Yeah. And if it's condensing a lot, sometimes you can crack it open for a couple hours. So depending on the situation, I'll monitor and maintain a decent amount of humidity.
And just like the terrariums boxes that we talk about, or the humidity boxes that we root in for those plants, remember that the humidity tends to like condense and run down the sides. So the outside of your container is usually going to be more wet.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have a way to look at the pictures right now because I have both devices going.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Ovifolia. Oh.
Nice.
I was looking for an ovifolia a while ago. Someone said they were growing one, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty," and I thought I wanted it. Nice. I think I got one of those sweet scents too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's seed season, so you're going to see a lot of these growers. I saw somebody in US Hoya that had a bunch too. I've never bought from him before. What was his name? Stewart something, I think.
Someone was just saying they got one some from Stewart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Henderson. Yeah, that was it.
Okay. Yeah, so
he looked like he had some really nice seeds
lots
too.
of seeds on the market. EPC. Yeah, I tell you what, there's a lot of good stuff right now. So we're kind of getting into it a little bit, and we're
It'll
gonna
be fun to see what we all grow, and then at the end of the, these aren't going to be ready for sale for some time.
Ooh, Ted Green.
Oh,
nice.
oh.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
I didn't know you could even do that. Reserve them.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you want to ask, people are, trying to sell the plants eventually. When they're ready, they'll just call you. I mean, I guess if you got it like that, pat yourself on the back. You are very lucky. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would not be sad to try to grow out a seedling from a Ted Green.
Yeah. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was a plant.
Ted Green's a
reserve on a plant, or was it a reserve on seed? Oh, seeds. Oh, wow. That's cool.
Wow. Okay. So that's these ones.
So, yeah. I mean.
So we don't have a ton of, this is the first time we're doing it, really. So I don't have a ton more to talk about. But if you guys have any information that you think would be valuable to everybody, feel free to share.
Yeah.
Thank you. I haven't bought a single thing this week. Not one. It's really sad.
Mostly behaving, haven't you? Or at least in terms of plants.
Yeah. I haven't bought anything else either. The kids keep taking all the money.
You think that buying things is the only way you misbehave?
Oh, probably not. All right, guys. Yeah, that's about it from us, I guess. And
yeah.
Anybody else want to talk about anything or want to see any plants or anything like that? Do better. Oh no, I made a mess.
Oh, you did.
That was not paying attention. Yeah, we are trying it in our potting mix to see. I wanted to experiment with that. Oh yeah, I forgot that I was still around. Amanda Crass, I forgot it's still in the shop.
I will show you the new leaf, how it's growing.
Oh no, which ones did I not put them in? Oh, I didn't put any in yet. I do think these seeds are really interesting shape. Thank you. All right, Caleb will be right back.
Okay. See that cute little new leaf growing there? Adorable. Beautiful grass. They're just on the surface. So yeah, not buried. I want to be able to actually see when they start turning green and swelling and putting out their germ and all that. So I like to see them on the top, and you can also kind of just like with a spray bottle, spray them in so they settle in a little, but it's still right there on the surface. And when they start to grow, you'll see them right away. Catherine does those amazing humididome things. We were looking for some when we were getting ready to do these seeds, but we were unable to find them at our local store. epicgardening.com. Okay, we'll have to look that up, see the stuff they've got. Because, like I said, a lot of the times we're just using things that we have handy or things that we can find at local stores and stuff. So if you can find stuff that's specific, often you'll find a better solution. These are just takeout containers that we had lying around, and it will trap humidity, but it's not ideal. So, oh, soil wise, Catherine, I think you're doing your own mix, right? Plain cocoa coir. Okay. Yeah, I mean, whatever works for you is going to be your best bet. You have to find the thing that works in your environment and that you can find readily available. I'm not a huge fan of coconut, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work well for a lot of people. And there's a good reason why a lot of people are using it. Yeah, a little less chunky will hold a little more moisture. And yeah, that definitely, I think these seeds are pretty tough and they can actually sprout in a lot of different conditions. And so that's kind of part of the fun of experimenting and seeing how you can find the best way. Yeah, that's the tricky part, is the starting and the wet and dry balance. Peat and perlite, yeah. See, the one thing I find with this peat is it's not sterilized. And so oftentimes if you put it under too much humidity, you have to watch that it does tend to get a little bit fuzzy. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of some mold growing in there and some algae and whatnot. And so, yeah, you want to be careful of that. But again, that doesn't mean that you can't just put some algaecide or some fungicidal spray to prevent that. But again, you just have to monitor that very carefully. Our soil, it doesn't need captive humidity. It holds enough humidity in that on its own. I've heard about cinnamon. Cinnamon is a very interesting substance, would you say? I mean, it's got some really interesting characteristics. I've heard of using it for keeping ants out of your house, like shaking a line of it in front of your door. It smells great, of course, and I've heard some really interesting things about it in terms of keeping bacterial infections and things like that down, and I just some interesting science behind that. So definitely something to look into. A little dash of cinnamon is pretty cheap, and it's a pretty cheap reassurance. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Like I said, there are so many cool tips and tricks for using home remedies or home things you have available in your house to help do your gardening tasks or chores. I think that's really kind of interesting study there. How do we use those things that we have handy to benefit us? A lot of people have always taken their coffee scraps and things like that and put that into their compost pile. And so there's a lot of that type of thing that a lot of people have implemented to grow their gardens. Yeah. Are we done? Did we do the seeds? We got 2 more here.
Oh, sorry, I got distracted. These two. One of our kids isn't feeling well, so.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Somebody had a little too much fun at Pride yesterday.
Oh dear. So. That's what happens. As they say.
Yeah. Well, least it was a good time then.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. If you, I should like mark these. That would be smart. So I know which ones are which in case they get mixed up.
That would be clever. More clever than I would have thought of.
Worth it. Yeah, it probably was for.
Yeah.
They definitely had a good time. So.
Ferndale Pride is a good time. Always a good time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, everybody. Anybody need to see anything again? Have any questions before we go? Next week, what are we doing? Next week, Friday, will be a website restock.
Yes.
And then Sunday, we will be back. If the weather cooperates, next week's topic is going to be moving the plants outside, doing a patio tour. If it doesn't cooperate, we will think of something else to talk about.
Yes, definitely.
We did just post our June lives here on Palm Street. If you could do us a huge favor and go subscribe to all of them, we really appreciate it. It makes a big difference to us.
Yeah.
We also posted our June calendar today. It'll go live on our social media so you can know where to find us all month long. We may have some other pop-ups in between, but those are the definite shows. June's going to be a little bit crazy for us with our youngest graduating and graduation parties and family visiting. So it's going to be kind of sporadic, but we'll definitely be around. I think someone said Phil was going live, right? So we could probably send you guys over to see Phil and Crystal.
Yeah. Also, just a little side note, not a huge deal or anything, but we did get new stickers.
Oh, yeah, they're really cool.
Our new stickers, if you haven't seen the announcement, they are in. We have our new logo. And so our new stickers have our new logo to reflect.
I'm really happy with how they turned out. Yeah. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. I'll show you the stickers and then we'll go.
Stickers.
Yeah, I really like those.
Aren't they fantastic?
Again, that was designed by our youngest child, and we love it.
Super beautiful. I love it. It's so cool. And so these will be on all our packages and in all our packages going forward, just like we've always done, just with the new logo. So very cool. Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks again for your support. We really appreciate it.
You guys.
Oh, good.
Oh, nice.
We will see you all on Sunday.
Yes. Everybody have a great day.
Let us know if you need anything.
Not on yet.
No, I see Saley though.
Oh.